Life in a world that keeps changing. Think that it's progress you're making. Copy and paste pretty faces all the time. Pictures so perfect we play.
Hello wonderful people, welcome back again to Anointed Lady TV, the home of news and politics. And we drop news every day, and we also react to every videos that comes our way. If it is your first time in this channel, you are highly welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. And if you are returning subscribers, we appreciate you for your massive support, and we say may God richly bless you all for supporting this channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please kindly smash on the subscribe button, put on the bell so you get to know anytime we drop a new video. I have a video to present to you this very moment, and I will be watching that video with you. And after watching, let's drop our opinion constructively at the comment section, like our videos, and also share our videos if possible. Bye for now.
After ransacking the house, they took the husband and the son and told my aunt that they would call the morning after. They wanted 15 million naira, and then we were able to negotiate back and forth with them. And then by the last day, they had agreed that we should pay 2.5 million naira. But on the grounds that we're going to bring that money same day by 4 to 6 p.m. and that once we can't bring that money that day, I should consider my uncle and the son dead. My name is Kennedy Ibite. I'm a youth policy analyst and social entrepreneur. The story started on the Monday 23rd August, when I received a call from my dad, a very frantic call, at about 8:30 a.m. While I was at work. I was already seated in the office. In fact, I was less than 10 minutes sitting in the office when the call came, and I noticed that my dad sounded very apprehensive at the phone, and I had inquired from him what happened, and he said that an uncle just got kidnapped along with his son the night before. So he had called that I should call another uncle to inquire on what the situation is. So when my dad dropped his call, I called my uncle, who is elder brother to the man who was kidnapped along with his son. I called him to inquire what the situation is. He confirmed the kidnap happened at about 11 p.m. Sunday night, and that the son and the dad were kidnapped after the house was broken into by what seemed like, or people who seemed like headers, headsmen, Fulani headsmen. Headers came into the house late into the night, about past 11. They broke into a first house where they were thinking they would have people to hold, but they didn't see anybody. And then my aunt's flat was the next building. So they broke into the house, and after ransacking the house, collecting monies, collecting phones and other valuables, they took the husband and the son and told my aunt that they would call the morning after. So before I had called, the kidnappers had called that morning earlier, before my call came in, to explain that they are kidnappers and that they had gone with the husband and that they are requesting 15 million naira as ransom for the father and the son, the 19-year-old son, who were both kidnapped. I called my uncle back to tell him what the situation was and what we needed to do, maybe to call the police attention. And I realized that my uncle wasn't in the right frame of mind. And then he said I should just go ahead and do whatever I think necessary that I can do. So after dropping his call, I went straight to Buari from my office. And on reaching Buari, was a lot of people, it was a crowd, everybody was traumatized, people were crying, so I met with my aunt and I inquired from her what had happened actually. So she explained, but she said that the kidnappers had promised they were going to call back, that same morning. So I decided that, okay, since I confirmed if they were, what tribe were the Fulani, the people were, they said they are Fulanis, and that when they called the morning before I called, that a woman who was more like a passerby had even addressed them on the phone, so because my aunt couldn't speak Hausa, but this passerby neighbor woman spoke to them, so they were able to communicate. And this was also part of the reason why I went, because I realized that there was communication barrier between my aunt and the kidnappers. So fortunately, while I was still there making inquiries from my aunt, their call came. So I took the phone and I answered. And in talking to them, I pleaded with them, and they had said that they wanted 15 million naira as ransom for the father and son they had captive. As a youth advocate, something kicked in. My auntie was traumatized on one hand. On the other hand, I realized that it's important that my negotiation skill should be put in effect at that point in time. So I just went straight into negotiating with these guys, and the negotiation lasted for about over 72 hours, 3 days thereabout. They wanted 15 million naira, and then we were able to negotiate back and forth with them. And then by the last day, they had agreed that we should pay 2.5 million naira. But on the grounds that we're not going to pay, we're going to bring that money same day by 4 to 6 p.m. and that once we can't bring that money that day, I should consider my uncle and the son dead. So, of course, for the 3 days, everybody went into a frenzy. Fundraising was happening. We were calling people, calling neighbors, calling church members, calling family members, trying to see how we can make up the 2.5 million naira that they had agreed to collect from us. In fact, it got so terrible that items were being sold to raise more money, because they had mandated us to bring the money same day or consider the people they had in captive dead. We raised that amount of money, 2.5, a little above that, and then we now got talking about how they were going to receive the money. And that's got a little challenging for us, because it's one thing for you to have the money, it's another thing for the monies to reach the kidnappers, which was a little challenging. We had spoken to a few people thinking they would summon the courage to do so, to join us to the bush, to the forest where they said they were. But they made a particular demand. They said we should look for an Okada rider who knows the terrain very well, who knows the nooks and crannies of Buhari Area Council. That's like a local government in Abuja FCT. After a very long time or long search, we found one Okada man randomly who was willing to volunteer to join us to the forest. And it now became a case of who would join him. I had already made myself available. I've already mentioned to them on the phone while the negotiation started from the outset that I'm going to be bringing the monies down to them. I understand the dynamics of paying ransom. I understand that it could go wrong. As much as I was positive, as much as I want to see my uncle and his son out, as much as I believe that, if we were not going to be getting to them too late in the night, because they said they were going to see us between 4 and 6 p.m. I felt it was a risk worth, taking. And here we're talking about my aunt's son. So I just summoned the courage, to go headlong into the forest with the monies. I just summoned the courage at some point and said, what, we have to face this. Someone must do this. And since I made the promise from the outset, since I started negotiating with them, I'd already told them that I'm going to bring the money over. While quite a number of my family members, my aunts, a few of my uncles kicked against the idea of me going, because they understood the risk involved. I just told myself that I'm going to face this. and get it done. So monies were complete, we held, and they had warned us not to make sure that we bring the money complete, and that whoever brings the money doesn't bring the money complete, the person risks death. So we counted the money over and over again, and then I held additional 5,000 naira in my pocket, should in case anything goes wrong. So it was time for us to embark on the trip, and they had called about 4:35 in the evening to ask us to embark. In fact, on the phone, they had inquired from the Okada rider if he knows all the villages leading to a particular forest between Buari, Kaduna, and he had told them that yes, he knows those villages. So, but where exactly they were, they didn't mention. They had only said that once we get to a point, they will tell us where to meet them. So we embarked on the journey, I think about 5:30 thereabouts, held prayers with family members, held hands, sang, praised, worshipped, and decided to embark on the journey. So it was just me and the Okada rider. So about an hour after the ride further into Buari, villages in Buari, we received about 4 calls, in between when we started and then till about 7 p.m. But what happened, what they did was they gave us the impression that we were going to see them early, but that didn't happen. We didn't see them until about 9-10 p.m. And they kept holding us down at various villages further into the bush. They kept holding us down. So for every village we get to, they call to find out if we're at so place. We say yes. They say, we'll park and wait. So we'll park and wait on a bike, and then wait for maybe another 30 minutes when they will call again to say, okay, move to the next village. So we went on like that until about 9 p.m., 9:30 thereabouts. They had asked us to proceed further into the forest, and that once we get to a point where they made a barricade, that we were going to see them, that they are going to stop us. So we proceeded, me and the Okada rider. I held the money in a bag, and it was raining heavily. It was raining heavily, and then we just went on riding through the forest, and then we got to a point. We saw a flashlight from a big torchlight, flagging us down to say, hey guys, wait. And then we waited, and then we parked. And the moment we parked, it was dark, and it was all forest area. We couldn't see anybody, we couldn't see any face, but we noticed a voice saying, is that you guys? We said, yes, you guys should wait. And we waited, and they said, who has the money? And then I responded, and they said, okay, come down and come towards our direction. So they kept pointing at their direction with a torchlight. They had asked me to come down from the Okada and leave the Okada. In fact, the moment I alighted from the bike, I realized that 2 guys, heavily armed, had already approached us, and they stood next to the Okada rider, and they asked me to drop and approach the person holding the torchlight. So I walked to the guy holding the torchlight, who was equally heavily armed. And then he had said, is that the money? I said, yes. He said, are you sure it's complete? I said, I'm very sure it's complete. He said, he asked me to get a full confirmation that the money was complete. And I said, it's complete. He said, okay, I would ask you to stray further into the bush. Just go straight into the bush. Just go straight into the bush. Use this footpath. He showed me a footpath and asked me to just stray in there, use that path, and that I'll still meet a few guys in there. So I walked for about 3 minutes, and I walked into 2 guys sitting on a metal bucket, guns strapped on their chest, and they had said, who am I? I said, I'm so person representing this family who were kidnapped about 30 days ago. They said, okay, you brought the monies. I said, yes. They said, where's the money? I said, that's it, I'm carrying in the bag. They said, how much is it? I said, 2.5 million naira. They said, are you sure it's complete? I said, yes, I'm very sure it's complete. In fact, I told them that if you wouldn't mind, I could sit down here with you guys, count the monies. If it's not complete, I have additional 5,000 naira in my pocket that I can use to make up what is left. at that point, I became a little apprehensive too, because I realized that while I was talking to these guys, one of them stood up from the metal bucket he was sitting on, and it was all bullets in the bucket. So I'm sure they did that to incite fear in me. So I gave them the monies, and they said, well, they said they're going to advise me that when I go out there, I should tell the whole world that they are representatives of Métis Allah, that they want me to say this message to the whole world, that they are representatives of Métis Allah. Then they collected the money, and then they asked me to walk back. So I walked back. By the time I went back to where the Okada rider is, there were already about 3-4 of them hanging at taking different positions with their guns strapped on their neck and their torchlights in their hand. So I walked. They escorted me. We went back to the Okada rider, and they asked me to hop on the ride. I did, and they asked the Okada man to drive off. So we drove off, took another 30 minutes to a nearby village, and they called on the phone, and I asked, where are we? And we told them we're at so place. So they said this was between 11-12 thereabouts. So they had asked us to park at a particular location and wait for the people we came to collect from them. So we waited in the village at a particular location. They had asked us to wait, and we kept waiting. We waited for another 45 minutes. It was dark, late into the night, no noise, nobody around. You could hardly even hear the sound of a bird, So all of a sudden, I noticed someone whispering in Yoruba. They were whispering to each other. Yeah, Dad, it's late. Don't let us go out. It's dark. We can't see anybody. I could hear them whispering to each other, maybe out of fear. They couldn't come out. I'm sure the dad wanted to come out from the bush, but the son kept saying, no, Daddy, don't just jump out like that. It's dark. There's nobody around. So the moment I noticed that these guys are whispering to themselves, and the fear of not knowing what they were going to meet out there wouldn't let them come out, I told the Okada rider to put on his bike light. He started the bike and put on the light. So the moment the light came on, I shouted my uncle's name. I screamed his name. He answered. In fact, I even mentioned his name in my dialect. And then he said, who are you? I said, it's Kende. He said, it's Kende. I said, yes. He said, oh, you are here? I said, yes. Then I said, run. He said, where are we? I said, just run towards the Okada light, the Okada headlamp. So they ran in our direction, the dad and the son. And, so they met with us. And then that was how we took them, and took another 1-hour ride back to Buhari. Took them to the hospital, where, because they were badly injured for those periods they were for the period that they were with the captives. They were beaten, they were macheted, they were badly injured. So we had to take them to the hospital for some care. And then that's how the story went. At some point, they were like, no, you can't do this. Let's get someone else who will do this, because I just lost my mom like barely 2 months before that incident happened. So there was the fear of, we don't want this to happen again. I mean, you're still going through the trauma of the passing of your mom. No, you shouldn't be the one doing this, So yeah, I wouldn't say that it was all a case of me having the faith to face it. I had fear, I had worries, I had concerns. I had the thought that what if things just go wrong? I had the thought that what if, but I think what I was able to do was I didn't allow that, supersede the thought that I can go in there and bring these guys out. I just held on to the belief that it's possible to go in there and get them out, and I just talk onto the belief. Yes, fear. Yes, at the point that It was just me and the Okada rider. In fact, at some point, the Okada rider parked. He parked and said, "My friend, you know what? I'm not going anymore. I'm done. I can't proceed anymore." In fact, he was crying at the point that he was telling me he's not going to continue. He was crying, and I kept on pleading with him, kept on begging him, and telling him that, you know, that where we are right now, where we came down here by these terrorists or these bandits navigating us here. So don't think they are not around. They are around, they can hear us, they can see us. So please, and we have the monies with us. It's risky at this point for you to say you want to go back. So we're already here, let's just face it. And I'm very sure that by God's grace, we're just going to get this done and then we'll come out of it. And I assured him, I said, he's Reuben. And I reminded him about the tribe of Reuben in the Bible. I said, if you believe in the word of God, would face this and would come out of it. And then he assured me that everything is fine. And then we proceeded. And then we went on. I would say the only point that I was afraid was when they asked me to stray into the bush. When the last guy I met, I had actually even thought that he was going to collect the money from me. And that would be all. But he inquired further if the money was complete. I said yes. He said, okay, you see this footpath, straight through this footpath, and you meet some other people out there. So I was just thinking that, you know, it was just going to get messy for me getting into that place. But I got in there, pushed my courage, pushed my faith a little further, got in there, gave them the monies, came out, you know. They directed me back to the bike guy. In fact, at the time that I went back to the bike guy, he couldn't start the bike. For like 5 minutes, he was so apprehensive that he was visibly shaking. He could barely start the bike, you know. So they forced him. In fact, I was pleading with him when some other guy screamed at him and said, "See, you better start this bike now or I'll shoot you." That was at the point that I started the bike, and I hopped on the bike and then we rode back. The facts are there. People are being killed daily. People are being kidnapped. People live in fear as a result of kidnappers, you know, hitting the bush. Even until about 2 weeks ago, we read in the news and we also saw videos online how a governorship aspirant of a state was attacked on his way to his state and he was killed along with other people who were kidnapped. You know, so while you don't want me to begin to say, yeah, the government has failed, the government hasn't failed, the facts are there. The facts are there. There's hardly no week that people are not kidnapped and killed. In fact, as I speak now, we still have children in Niger, in Kebbi, in Zamfara State. I'm talking about school-age children, numbering in Kebbi, numbering over 60. As I speak today, they are still in captive, and they've been held for over 3 months. There are incidences of people of school-age children held in Kaduna. They are still in captivity as I speak. 4 months, 5 months going. Same in Kebbi, same in Niger. They are still